Welcome, sir. Oh my gosh, I'm ready.
Good morning.
Good.
How are you?
Good.
Morning, everybody.
Your chair, sir.
Oh.
This is a senator of the 21st District who has become and is being recognized publicly today for his role on the Midwest Interstate Passenger Rail Commission.
This is really important to our state, and I think to the Midwest, that we continue to look at all viable ways of being able to move people. I have to tell you, I was really disappointed one time when I was gonna go up to visit my son in Minneapolis, and trying to get a space on the train to go to Minneapolis.
Oh.
They were booked out 2 weeks. Full. And I said, well, hello, I'm talking to the gal that's gonna do the scheduling to get you your tickets, and she says, yeah, it's 2 weeks out. And I said, well, I gotta be there this week, So why don't you guys just put another train car on, Wouldn't that make sense? She says, we have enough people to fill it, but that's a little bit of work to make that happen. So I'm glad to see that we're working on areas with that, with being able to provide people that opportunity, because when you ride the rail, it's a pretty fun.
Schedules of legislators is really perverse these days. And so he literally is on 3 different committees. If they're not there, they get listed as absent. It doesn't look good. They've done it to themselves. They're compressing so many things. The state assembly is not in session until February 13th, and probably just in session 2 days before they adjourn. So bills passed. The one I wanted to mention is Senate Bill 460 and Assembly Bill 463. All aboard Wisconsin registered in favor of that bill, and that Chuck and Andy have been working on it. It is a bill that extends the, as I said, from rail, it extends to rail workers the protections and enhancement of safety and enforcement that highway workers have is extended to rail. In Wisconsin, the city of Kenosha operates a 5-car streetcar system under current law. And Milwaukee, the city of Milwaukee has the HOP. Those unions would be subject to this, and out of brotherhood in support of the work that's being done, we supported that legislation and we hope to get it through. Representative Spiros is the main author of that, who we're going to recognize later today. So as I explained to them earlier about how the governor has put together a policy team, which I find to be an incredible recognition in the work. I watched what these folks do. His boss, quote Jenny Dye, really driven into its policy, healthcare, all the things that they have been involved in. And it's not done with any grandiose PR type stuff. It's basic hard work. And I appreciate that, our rail people. So Jacob advises the governor on all transportation issues. I contact the governor's office through the official legislative liaison, Zach Madden. He's the governor's legislative person. So we approach that office in order to have a senior policy person come in. That's always coordinated. Everybody knows what's going on. And then we have Don Wuring coming, and we're gonna really enjoy that.
Grill him.
And we will, yes, yeah. And we're gonna be advocating as a lobbying organization. In the state budget, we worked on the railroad commissioner's budget and rail preservation program, and of course, supporting the TCMC and any of the public transit that was out there.
Great.
So I will let you I'll take it from here.
Great.
Thank you, and thank you for being here.
Of course. Thanks. This is my second year being here, so it's something to look forward to. So appreciate you having me. Jacob Pankratz, I'm the senior policy advisor for the governor. Been here about 2.5 years. Transportation is one of my big issue areas. I also cover natural resources and the environment, energy and utilities, and agriculture. The other role I've assumed in the past 1.5 years or so is our state's infrastructure coordinator for federal funds. So the White House, when President Biden passed the bipartisan infrastructure law, he asked all states to designate infrastructure coordinator to kind of lead the state's efforts in getting all this huge increase in federal infrastructure investment to the state, and that now extends to the Inflation Reduction Act for climate and environment, and the Chips and Science Act for semiconductors, other areas. So a lot of, as I'm sure you all are well aware, a lot of the investments in passenger rail over the past couple of years is coming from our partners at the federal level, under President Biden's leadership. So I know Joel's coming, I believe right after me, which is a really good order of operations, because you have me who can touch on it lightly, and then Joel who can get into the real nitty-gritty details, since a lot of the governor's work on passenger rail is through WSDOT, and they've been Craig and Joel and Paul at the time, and now Christina as the number 2 have been incredible advocates for bringing passenger rail to Wisconsin after years of disinterest, I'll say, from previous administrations. It's something that is still a high priority for the governor. I've had this conversation with Chris and with other folks. It's one where a lot of the work happens behind the scenes for a couple different reasons. Obviously, politically, there are challenges with our friends on the other side of the aisle with passenger rail. We hear, public comments from time to time about, not a dime for passenger rail. We will see what the legislation looks like at the end of the year coming up here, but we really think, someone said it just now, the time is now to really expand and to accelerate, no pun intended, to get those things done so that whatever happens after this administration, things are moving forward, it's kind of locked, we can take advantage of the investments that are coming down right now. Because at the federal level, we don't know what's going to happen over the next year. So going quickly, even though sometimes I acknowledge it might not feel that way because a lot of the work happens behind the scenes. And I just want to say that out loud, like I get that and I feel that. Things are happening behind the scenes that we're going very quickly to try to get those expansions done. I won't go through the corridor ID selections. I think you all know that. We got the feasibility studies in the works. I know WSDOT released their 2050 rail plan that I'm sure Joel knows much more than I do, and he can go into more detail. I'll just close by saying, you guys are really important. You all are really important in making sure that this remains a top issue. A lot of issue areas, when you hear that kind of blunt opposition in the legislature from certain folks in the legislature, not everyone, I imagine it can be hard to still keep that top of mind and to keep pushing for that. So it's really important to have your voice and to have young people at the table, experienced leaders at the table, the local perspective from the areas that we're trying to expand to, the Green Bays, the Fox Valleys, the Eau Claires. Those voices are really important. The business community is really important to generate this momentum. So I think this is exactly the right group of people to come here.
And just so you know, the behind the scenes need, we understand and support. So we have had some members who are a little more enthusiastic from time to time, and we've had to make sure that we understand the realities on the Joint Finance Committee, and we talked about the committees prior to you don't need to know about the Joint Finance Committee, but we did that, and of course, know that we may be coming back to that with, in terms of another rail piece that Minnesota's working on that we may have to come back.
Well, I should have mentioned, that's my personal investment here, is recently engaged my now fiance from Duluth. Their family still lives in Duluth. So I said we need to get this done, then we need to get Northern Lights done to Duluth. So I told my partner that hopefully in the next 5 to 10 years we'll be able to take Amtrak to Christmas instead of having to drive from Madison to Duluth for the holidays, which you just don't know what to expect from year to year.
Yeah.
That coupled with getting the new Bucket Bridge, which me and Joel talked about endlessly. Very exciting time for the northern part of the state and our partners in Minnesota. Yeah, and it's a balance, right?
Yeah.
There needs to be the voices to continue to push folks, right? How people respond to that pushing changes, and hopefully after this year, there will be a much different climate in the legislature to support state investments, not just federal investments, in passenger rail, but also other forms of transit. which we're also working with the Biden administration to get those investments in.
Jacob, you're talking about a lot going on behind the scenes. I've talked to my legislators somewhat often and they're supportive, but are there other things politically that we can do to help behind the scenes quietly to just keep this momentum going?
The thing that me and Joel have talked about when we talk about how do we get helpful, useful political support for passenger rail, I think it really comes down to the local perspective and the business community. So local mayors, local city administrators, local businesses, the Packers have been getting more involved. The types of folks that I'm going to generalize, but the types of folks that our friends across the aisle are more keen to listen to. Again, generalizing, I've never been across the aisle, so I don't want to stereotype, but I think those sorts of public letters where you're having businesses sign on saying this is going to help business, I think is really helpful. And we've seen some of that. I think I just recently saw kind of a letter from the Oshkosh, Fox Valley area doing that. I think that's really helpful.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for your work.
Always be thinking about how to avoid becoming a wedge issue.
Yeah, and we're in an interesting point here now where the cities who are part of corridor ID studies are really wanting to move fast. Obviously, Mayor Rose Conway wants to move fast and make this kind of a top priority for her, which is great. I mean, she should. We want to bring rail to Madison, but the balance there between making it a wedge issue and moving it forward productively, which I empathize for her because the city is the one that has to figure out where this would go if it does come to Madison. So there has to be some planning happening, and having public input in that planning process is something that the mayor is really focusing on. But that means it's all public, and it means people write stories, and then the legislature sees these stories about Madison wanting rail, and these other communities are really important. Their voices are really important beyond the Madisons and Milwaukees. So it sounds like there's a really good swath of representation in this room, which I think is really good.
And Mayor Tony, explain how you tried to build some of those coalitions I'm aware of, because you've been at it for a while, in terms of how Kaukauna or Menasha have reached out to other communities in the area to change that. The valley is critical, especially their end of the valley, is so important. How you two.
A lot of it's been pushed by Mayor Enrich, I believe, from Green Bay, and 7 of us did sign on to a letter, which is very amazing. We don't get along on anything. We're competing economically to get these things. So to have 7 of us join that letter has been very crucial. Great. We also worked with Green Bay Chamber and Fox Cities Chamber to have a letter sent that you were probably talking about with the business community.
Must have been great.
And that doesn't include everyone. There's a lot of people beyond that are supportive of it that we should probably add. We've also been working with our Convention and Visitors Bureau. They're very supportive of bringing tourism both directions, I think, as well with that rail connection. So a lot of interest there. There's a lot of just general interest though, public as well, when you go and talk to people. And when is it coming? When is it coming to Menasha? Well, it's not coming to Menasha, it's coming to Appleton. You can get there. And it's just been very positive for the most part, not that many people on the negative side that normally would be there.
We have the Heart of the Valley Chamber of Commerce in the city of Kaukauna, who is in support of high-speed passenger rail, along with a lot of our manufacturing businesses in our industrial park, where the rail goes right past there, as well as Don said, residents and just members of the community that are in support of high-speed passenger rail coming through up to Green Bay.
Great.
I can say these 2 mayors are very active. And the other thing that I want to mention, because you are the infrastructure person we all need to coordinate with, the fact that the leased coal yard up in Green Bay has received federal grant money to relocate is key. Because once the rail configuration gets set, that's probably going to be the terminus, turnaround, rail housing there. And we've met with the city of Green Bay planners. They're very active too.
Probably not forget Mayor Woodford and Appleton.
Absolutely.
He's been very active as well, just couldn't be here today.
Yes. Mayor Lang and Nina, City Manager Joseph Moore in Fond du Lac. they're all coordinated. As a matter of fact, you might see another letter from them pretty quickly.
Please.
Any other questions
Pretty
for
exciting
Jacob?
to see, because I was kept pretty in the loop on the 4 state corridor ID submittals. Then that 5th one that was led by, was it the city or the Eau Claire County, whoever led that, it was pretty exciting to see that there was a local application that was accepted as well, and that it just goes back to what we were saying, the local perspective outside of Madison is really important for this, for the push.
Yeah.
Well,
And we
one
are,
thing that I might like to add, that we have the Chippewa St. Croix Rail Commission, and that was actually a spin-off from the Rail Coalition, because the West Central Wisconsin Rail Coalition in Eau Claire's been around since 1999. But in order to get grants or be eligible for federal funding, you have to be a public entity, not just a nonprofit. So basically, the Chippewa St. Croix Rail Commission was formed just a little bit over a year ago. And what's really nice with the Chippewa St. Croix Rail Commission, we actually have representatives from the city, the county, businesses, UW Eau Claire, UW River Falls, Chippewa Valley Technical College. And so I think it's really important that, you know, with the Rail Commission, everybody that is a key player in the community has a voice on the commission. And that has been a real asset for us. Because without that Rail Commission, it's nice just to have that option to be eligible for funding. So,
I mean, maybe in closing, I'll just say that I know one of the governor's favorite events he did recently was he got a freight train, but he got to ride a BNSF train from the DeForest area down to Madison just to talk to the engineer and hear how it works. And those are the types of trips he likes to take and the events he likes to do. So he talks about it quite often. So I know this is still, you know, passenger rail and rail in general is still in the forefront for the governor, and I think we're in a really exciting time where there could be some changes in the legislature and the political winds might be shifting. The funding and federal support is there to really make big changes over the next couple of years.
and that's our purpose today, is to catch them before they go home shortly. And then with all of these groups, we're committed to educating candidates as well. We can legally do that. And thank you, Jacob, very, very much for being here.
Great, thank you for being here.
Yeah. He doesn't often get applause, but it's well deserving of it. Yeah.
There you go.